Your longing to be loved properly is natural and normal. And if you've given your heart to someone who only sometimes makes you feel loved, but then other times just avoids you, doesn't return your calls, keeps you anxious all the time about whether you have plans that night or not, you have a crappy situation on your hands. Being with someone who can't love you back is one of the most painful ways that you can spend your life, especially when they keep you on a hook with the periodic lovey-dovey behavior, luring you back toward them once again with a false belief that everything's different this time and the days of painful abandonment and rejection are gone forever. But then if you've been through this, you know that what often follows is the same old pain. And when they switch out of that there for you mode and they get mean and pull away once more, it's horrible. So I want to share with you a video from my archive focused on a letter I received from a woman who's deep in confusion about why her partner keeps doing this and how to make him stop. I got a letter from a student named Helen the other day, and here's what she says. Dear Anna, your channel appeared on my screen after I had a devastating disagreement with my partner, and it opened my eyes. Literally every single word he said was a topic of your video, and I finally understood where he was coming from. Thank you so much. The thing is, ever since I watched almost all your videos and tried to understand better how he's wired, he doesn't share much about this, and I've not asked him if he ever considered if he suffers from CPTSD. He had an abusive childhood and complains about migraines, nightmares, ruined friendships, memory loss, feeling of disconnection, lack of need to reach out to friends, etc. I believe him that he loves me and strongly feel that when we're together. When we're apart, though, it gets more complicated. Sometimes he disappears without warning for days, and I'm left not knowing what is going on. He doesn't answer the phone. He doesn't reach out to me at all. It's hard to not take it personally. I get sad and frustrated and get the impression that especially after emotionally harmonic, intense phases, he has to withdraw, I'll say. I'm very understanding and patient. I do tapping, meditation, and yoga, but I am about to reach my limits. I have to look out for myself as well and not care about his needs all the time. It's turning into a roller coaster ride with no apparent reason because when we're together, we are very much aligned. Would you mind making a video for partners of PTSD-affected people? I'm sure there are more fans like me in your crowd of followers. There definitely are. This is a really common topic. I'm so sorry you're going through this, Helen. It's really hard. It's good that you're aware of your partner's CPTSD. You've definitely looked at all the angles and taken care of yourself. You know, when you say that he has migraines, nightmares, ruined friendships, memory loss, disconnection, lack of need to reach out, that does sound like he's got classic symptoms and this sort of avoidance thing going on where he disappears for days. Very unfortunate symptom. Very hard for anybody in the world to put up with that. Now you say you might have to leave, and we can talk about that in a minute, but what I want you to be aware of is that at this point, whether you know it or not, you might be developing CPTSD too, if you didn't have it already, from the chronic stress of getting abandoned like this. And it can debilitate you when you go into that state from making choices about this situation. So I'm really glad you wrote, and I'm here to help. Now this periodic abandonment thing, it is mysterious. And the first thing I'm going to say is that the fact that he does this, leaves, and doesn't tell you what's going on or return your efforts to communicate, it's pretty devastating behavior. It'd be one thing if this were, I don't know, a neighbor who pops in for coffee sometimes and then disappears. But this is a romantic relationship where there is understandably an expectation of communication, where you are getting hurt very understandably by the abandonment, and I'm sure you've told him this. So, tough love time. Let's talk about what might be going on with him. Well, actually, we can't talk about what's going on with him because even you don't know. Is it a drug habit? Is it another relationship? Is he just feeling overwhelmed? Is it just CPTSD? It doesn't matter, except the fact that he is not communicating with you. These distinctions would totally matter if everything else in the relationship was going strong, but here's the thing. He can't communicate with you about his plans and intentions. He leaves you hanging and in pain again and again. So even if his activities are innocent in themselves, The behavior of not telling you is emotional abuse. His non-communication is a terrible thing to do to somebody. Now, maybe he does it on purpose. Maybe he's traumatized and can't deal with anyone, including you, for spells. Let's assume innocence here. He's just traumatized. Either way, this is not a partnership, all right? He can't or won't care for you or respect you in the most ordinary way that a partnership requires, all right? So let's focus on you. You've effectively slipped into what is called a trauma bond, a deep attachment that forms when love is switched on, then off, then on, then off again. And it's like a hook that snares you, and everything is wrong with it. But your emotions and your wiring make you hold on like it's so great. And you find glimmers of hope even in the worst emptiness. It does something to your thinking, something bad to your thinking. You're on the receiving end of emotional abuse, but instead of pulling back and leaving, you get into it. There's a quiet little feeling of shame about that, but you push it down. Other people can easily see from the outside that the situation's no good. So you distance yourself from people, right? Instead of changing the behavior or snapping out of it, you distance yourself. Is that happening for you, Helen? Are you finding yourself covering for him and isolating when he's not around? Maybe pretending you do know where he is and that everything's okay so that people can't judge you? Because maybe if you can get people to believe in him, you know, there's like this hope, or maybe other people's belief can help you believe in him when your hope is sinking, right? You say you're at the end of your limit, and that totally makes sense. So it's weird, right? That we go to all that trouble to believe in something we know on some level is only going to bring loss. And why do we do that? It's the emptiness of being alone that we fear, right? We might have been a little lonely, but basically fine before the relationship started. And now we're acting like we have no choice but to put up with emotional abuse. That's what emotional abuse does. And there's that crap fit element where it's like it's painful all the time. And if you're like a lot of us, your thinking distorts and you start thinking, I'll adapt to the pain. The problem is that I get so hurt by it. I'll stop being so hurt by it, and then that will make it work for me. But that's not really realistic, all right? If you feel like you're causing this problem, just remember, that is the CPTSD talking. That feeling that you have to hold on, that's CPTSD talking. That feeling that it's you, if only you could do better, that is CPTSD. It's not your fault that you got hooked into a roller coaster relationship, but it's you and only you who's going to get you free from it. So let's get this out right away now. Yes, there are people who could handle being with somebody who comes and goes. I don't know who they are, but they'll definitely let us know who they are in the comments and say, oh, this is so old-fashioned. But in any case, you're not somebody who can handle this. And I encourage you not to try to become somebody who can. Like, don't do that to yourself. Don't try to strip yourself of sensitivity and connectivity, because that's what's going to be beautiful to somebody else in a relationship one day, that you have that. All right? So go ahead and remain the kind of person who loves fully and needs high quality love right back. Be someone who gets clear and timely information when your partner needs a break. Be someone whose partner never refuses basic information and whose comings and goings are positive and known to you and harmonious with you. The times when he's with you and the times when he's away from you should both feel like you were treated lovingly and with respect. So just remember, a partnership customarily is like that. It's totally reasonable that you need that, and only trauma has convinced you that you can somehow make do without this basic level of love and consideration. All right, the connection you feel with your current guy when you're together, I get it. And in fact, maybe this has been a pattern for you. That's often, what happens. If it wasn't a pattern before, it will try to become a pattern now. So it's really important that because of this trauma bonding that's happening, that you break this pattern, all right? The intensity and the higher love experience, or what feels like higher love, becomes possible because of the abandonment that's happened before and that will happen again. Like, you could kind of think of it as a kind of fetish, almost, a form of domination by one person that can hook a person who's being dominated. And it's not healthy, it's not satisfying. It's like plastic food in a fake fruit bowl, right? It looks like a beautiful apple in there, but if you bite into it, it's just like dusty plastic painted red. And that's kind of like the love and intensity that you feel when this guy comes around. It looks so great. But because you're wired for love, it will never be satisfying for you. It's a plastic apple, all right? A lot of people will say, this guy is a narcissist and he's manipulating you, love bombing, discarding. Maybe it fits that pattern. I don't know much about him from your letter, except that he's making your life miserable. So there's no need to diagnose him. I'm going to suggest to you that you not use my videos to try to piece together an explanation for why he does what he does. It's time for you to be selfish here and look inward and direct your patience and kindness inward and ask, how did I become someone who would give all my love and time to an unhappy relationship? And it's not too late at all for you to get out of this. You could tell him now, you could wait till he leaves again, but the trauma bond relationships are a lot like an addiction, so you'll want to line up support to get through the withdrawal after you end it. What does this mean? Well, I cover a lot of this in my dating and relationships course for people with CPTSD. You can get a link to that in the description section below if you want to check it out. But here are a few tips. You're going to want to line up human support. This could include a therapist, family members if you've got some good ones, and female friends, especially the ones who are positive and supportive of you and want the best for you. You could watch videos and pick up some good books on how to survive a breakup. There's one called Don't Call That Man, A Survival Guide to Letting Go. I used that book myself once with excellent results. I'm here to tell the tale. And you'll need to plan some joy and some busy time in your schedule to minimize the grief and loneliness that come with any breakup for people with abandonment issues, even with someone you hate. But in this case, it's someone you love, so this is going to hurt. The sooner you cut all ties, the faster you can start healing and stop hurting.